Okay, parents, hey, this is Miss Gonzalez. I am the school counselor at AB Duncan, and I've met so many of you guys. Hey, I just want to kind of give you some pointers as far as this week's going to go. We are up here right now, and we are figuring out this technology thing. We are figuring out how to homeschool your kids via our technology. We are in a day and age that is incredible on the things that we can do via our computers and our iPhones and our iPads. And so I think this education thing is going to go off without a hitch. But I know that just from talking to people, there's a lot of anxiety and some worry and a little bit of concern going into next week when we start this full fledged. So here are some things that you can do this week to set yourself up for a successful next week. There's going to be growing pains in this. This is going to be a little harder for some than others. Depending on the age of your students and how many students you have at home. But I want you to know, number one, that we are here for you, that I'm going to be available for your kids and for you. The teachers are going to be available. They're going to start contacting you with some things that you need to know. So take a deep breath. We've got this under control, and we are going to walk you every bit through this. But here's 5 things that I think, if we will get going this week, are going to help us immensely next week. Number 1, be available. During this time of uncertainty, our kids are feeling it from us, and they are understanding that something is very different, something very weird is going on, but they don't quite understand it. And honestly, neither do we sometimes. But I think we have to be available to have some of those conversations with them and be very calm and reassuring in what we tell them, but also in maybe bringing out some of the positives. This is a really cool time. You're going to get to work on the computer. We can be creative. We can have a little bit more family time. There's a lot of things that we can do with the flexibility of this. And so just be available when those anxieties do come up, and mind your own feelings. Sometimes we bring things home with us and we don't know how to process those, and so we kind of give those to our kiddos. So be real aware of your own emotions and available to yourself during this time, and seek out some help if you need some help processing some of that. But also be available to those students that really thought they were going to get to come back today and they didn't, and so they're real kind of confused. Number 2, and I think this one is huge, limit news exposure. You know what? We as adults can sit around and watch Facebook and watch the news, and we become very anxious. There's a lot of information out there. If you remember back to when we were in school, we did not have access to the type of information our students do now, and sometimes this can become overwhelming. Limit the news exposure to them. So maybe while you're watching the news in the evenings, you give them something creative to do. I'm not saying don't let them watch it, but I'm saying limit a little bit of that. Filter through some of that. Help them to make those decisions that we make as adults on what is right and wrong, and maybe not have some of those conversations around them because they experience the same anxiety and the same fears that we do. They just don't know how to process a lot of it because they don't have the world exposure. So I think that's huge, is to start kind of limiting that, sheltering them from a little bit of that news exposure. Even if you have older kids, you'll notice that the more information we get sometimes, the less we know what to do with it. So I think that's great. Number 3, and this one is going to save you next week. Establish routines and boundaries this week so that going into next week when we get this computer thing rolling, they have already got some of these routines and boundaries set. My kids were super excited when I handed them a schedule on Sunday night as far as what this week was going to look like. So basically all we have tightened down at our house is what bedtime and what mornings are going to look like, what time I want them in bed, what time I want them up in the mornings. We have taken electronics back out of the bedrooms at night because I think that's a super important thing for kids that are developing in their brain structure, and also just routines and boundaries, making sure that they don't have that, making sure they can rest well so that they wake up, making sure they understand that we are still in school. It's just going to look a little bit differently. So they still have to get their sleep. They still have to eat really well. Helping them to establish maybe some chores, something that they're responsible for. Little guys really love like picture charts and things like that, and if you need help with that, you just let me know and I can get you some graphics and stuff to make some picture charts so that they can have maybe a chart of what I do when I get up. I brush my teeth, I make my bed, I do this, and then I'm ready for schoolwork. Those boundaries and routines are going to be huge for you at home because those have always been set up at school for a lot of our kids. Instead of at home. And so this isn't summer break. We can't just let it free for all. So setting those routines and boundaries this week and kind of seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work I have older kids, and so I've given them some options as far as I want them to do this, but the time of day that they pick is kind of up to them because I want to see what's going to work for them. So establishing those routines right now, having a family meeting and maybe talking about what that is. Another one, set goals. What do I need to get done today? So today by 5 o'clock, I want you to make sure you have made your bed, fed the dog, and taken out the trash. If you can get those things done by 5 o'clock today, we have met our goals. So setting goals with chores, and then when school starts, setting goals with schools. I need you to get this and this and this done by a certain time. And if you do, here's what's going to happen. And if you don't, here's what's going to happen. So just setting those boundaries and being very consistent and clear on those. And then parents, take care of yourself. One thing I have learned is if we are not healthy and we can't handle things, we can't help our kids do that. And so we can't give something away that we don't have ourselves. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're seeking help if you need that. I am available. I'm here at the school. I have a web page through the FISD site, Jennifer Gonzalez. It has my email. It has my cell phone number. If you need to contact me, I am still doing counseling sessions. So if your kiddos are struggling, we will just be doing that via Hangouts. You can get on there and refer them to me if you think that they need to talk through some of this. I am completely available to that. I can help you set up some schedules if you need to do that for your home. We are here for you. So if we can set up some things this week, I think it's going to really help us as we move into the new homeschooling of next week. And I'm super excited about it. I've heard your teachers talking, and I know that they have some great things set up for the students of Floyd Ada ISD. So let's do some things this week to prepare for success, and let's go Whirlwinds.